Well, wasn't that an absolute beatdown in Cardiff? These are my instant reactions following South Africa against Wales. Congratulations on South Africa on a win. That's a plane going overhead. I've moved from Devon, where my last bunch of videos have been, now at my parents' house. And that sound you can hear is the pond. So I apologise if that makes you need the loo. And you know that little meme that there is online with Pablo Escobar in that Narcos series, sat on the swing chair? That's me right now. But it's a lovely place to talk about 80 minutes of rugby, which, well, you'll feel very differently depending on whether you are South African or Welsh after that one. Leave your comments. What are your takeaways from that game for your team or just in general? Because I think the overwhelming thing, is that the gulf between the top 5 teams and the rest was stark and on display in Cardiff right there. And also the gulf between one side of the Rugby World Cup draw and the other was pretty stark, wasn't it? And Wales won't mind too much about that, but it does just reiterate that for one of South Africa, Scotland, Ireland, rough. And even for 3 of South Africa, Scotland, Ireland, France, New Zealand, they're not going to get past the quarterfinal, and that's pretty rough as well. South Africa were class. They were very, very good. It's hard to try and dissect how much was South Africa good and how much were Wales quite poor. Definitely a bit of both. And Wales have got a recent good record against South Africa. I think South Africa have only won in Cardiff once in the last 10 years. So to win in that fashion says something, albeit it is basically a Wales C team. And I think Warren Gatland has probably learnt a lot about some of his fringe players. And I think that they've been exposed for not being at the required level yet. And trust me, as an Englishman, it's pretty stark that Wales the last couple of weeks haven't faced a real high quality test team, but they did in South Africa and they got shown up for it. A bad start as well, wasn't it, for Wales? Bad start. And I'm not even talking about Malcolm Marx's try on 4 minutes. Dan Biggar, Liam Williams and Alex Cuthbert all ruled out. Precautionary. So that there's nothing serious, I don't think, to worry about too much. And that seems like a smart move. On the flip side, Wales, even when they were getting absolutely panned, brought Lewis Rees-Zammit off the bench. And I mean, I'm not even Welsh, and I was thinking, leave him alone, leave him on the bench. But there you go. Positives from this game. Firstly, I don't know about you, but I was watching the Amazon coverage, and I didn't get any adverts for adult nappies this week. So that's a big bonus. Also, the Wales anthem in Cardiff is always amazing. And both kits are outstanding. I think they're really good kits. And South Africa's home shirt, their green jersey, is the best home jersey they've had in years, I think. So there you go. On to the rugby though, takeaways. To say that Wales's scrum got demolished would be an understatement. And South Africa made a statement there with their set piece, didn't they? They had the upper hand big time. Wales were a bit better in the line-outs, but still couldn't get their maul going. And those fundamentals up front, South Africa did really well. Some of the fundamentals behind the scrum, they didn't quite do so well. Goal kicking. Could that be an issue? There was one moment when Jesse Creel scored his intercept try, or Peter Steph-Toy got the intercept and set Jesse Creel off, by the way. By the way, Jesse Creel making people not really worrying about Lekanyo Am being injured. He had a great game. Yeah, when he scored, I sort of thought maybe he should have run away from the post a little bit to give Manie Libbok a little bit more kicking practice. So the goal kicking will be a bit of a concern. Some of the inability of the wingers for South Africa, particularly Kane and Moody, not to catch the high balls, might be a concern. Because those are some of the bread and butter things you think South Africa always get well. However, what South Africa have clearly evolved in their game is some real ballers and some real attacking play. And whilst Manie Libbok made some errors, he was carving up Wales's defence a little bit. He was cutting angles and running lines that got him out into the open. Maybe messed up the execution a little bit to actually finish it off. But Malcolm Marx scored the early try. Kane and Moody scored another try. A few Wales penalties in the meantime. That penalty try, though, let's just talk about that for a second. It went to show that the refereeing and TMO system on the pitch can be as shambolic as some of the disciplinary procedures off the pitch in rugby just now. Because Andrew Brace, he clearly thought that the ball had come off Moody, which, come on, it did, didn't it? It did. But the TMO wasn't sure, or couldn't be sure, which I found strange. But the issue I have with this is when you look at rugby league, there's a clear hierarchy. When it comes to a TMO decision, the referee just hands the reins over to the TMO, and the TMO makes all the decisions. But in rugby union, they don't really have a hierarchy. So the referee could have pulled rank and said, no, I think it's a knock on. So no yellow card, no try. But because, I don't know, this referee on this occasion decided to go with the TMO who wasn't sure and therefore gave a yellow card and a try. So we could tidy up that area of the game. Because again, if that happened in a tight game in a World Cup quarter-final, I mean, you thought the Owen Farrell thing's been controversial this week. Imagine how controversial that could have been. Anyway, South Africa, yeah, we talk about the set piece, the fundamentals. Their scramble defence was excellent. And they're showing some attacking touches that 4 years ago they were showing in patches. Now they're just slick. They are slick. And again, I'm trying to judge South Africa in the context of this was a poor Welsh team, very inexperienced. The Welsh backline had 40 caps between them. So I don't know, how much was that South Africa changing the way they play, being really good at attack, and how much of that is just not a very good Welsh team they're up against. So I'm conscious I'm in the shadows a little bit. It might make me hard to see. So anyway, Peter Steph du Toit. We saw some vintage Peter Steph du Toit, didn't we? Like, we saw some moments where he just was rampaging, and he hasn't quite been at top form, but you get the sense he might be peaking for a World Cup. And that's a frightening thought for the rest of the world if that is the case. It was great to see. Loved it. And alongside him in the back row, for Siya Kolisi to even be on the field was remarkable. And then for him to be busting a tackle and offloading for the Malcolm Marks try 4 minutes in, amazing. One of the true superstars of the game, and so good to see him. I kind of, from about half an hour in, I was like, right, he's still on the field and he's still doing all right. Just get him off, rest him. They did in the end. Jesse Creel, as I said, bearing in mind Lekanyo big loss. For one thing, for his try, one of his tries, the intercept one, he ran a full 100 metres and out-sprinted the Wales winger, made him look, and then got up after the try and just looked like he could do it all over again. The guy is shredded and really quite good at rugby. Warren Gatland, he knew it was going to be tough, didn't he? He threw the B team at this one. I mean, he can really judge his players now, can't he? Now they've gone up against a very good team. He really now knows the measure of some of his players, and some of his players are promising talents for the future, but they're not ready for a World Cup now. And I think that will, in that sense, that will help Wales pick their World Cup squad. And they're clearly got a lot of work to do. They were responsible for at least 4 of South Africa's tries that I can just think of, so quite a lot of naivety on show. The problem is they're asking the Welsh public to go to Cardiff and pay for that game, pay to watch that game, and for public relations, that's not going to be a good thing. So yeah, the biggest ever score against Wales in Wales. And how much of that was with South Africa being outstanding? Certainly a big chunk of it. I'm curious to know what you think the South Africa wingers are going to be for that World Cup opener, because Kurtley Arensa not involved. The wingers that were out there look good. They've got choices, haven't they? They've got choices. It just depends how you want to set the team up and play. Right, those are some of my initial thoughts immediately following the game. I'm going to quit because I'm just looking at the clock and the England game's about to start, so I'm going to go and watch that game. And I'll be back with my thoughts on that and maybe some more thoughts on South Africa and Wales afterwards. In the meantime, I know you'll get stuck into the comments, so please do. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers. If you enjoy the channel, hit subscribe, leave some comments. Trying to shut this gate. There we go. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one.